Nina Turner went on CNN. It's amazing to me that they still have her on because she speaks truth to power regularly, and usually they try to get those people off of air ASAP. She went back and forth with a Joe Manchin staffer. This is something you're going to love.
And this is really a sad day, a sad time for democracy. And although the African-American community certainly shoulders an enormous burden when it comes to voting rights because of the historic import of how we had to fight and people had to die to get those rights, this is an attack, make no mistake, on every single person in this country, particularly the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class. An absolute sad day that you have senators that would rather hold on to the filibuster than to hold strong for democracy in the United States of America. Sad indeed.
Jonathan, what do you say?
Yes, we need to pass Voting Rights Act. Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema's positions on the filibuster hasn't changed. They don't think it's good for the Senate and the country overall, and they're worried about what might happen when Republicans take back control of the Senate, which, by the way, isn't that far off. It was only 2 years ago they had complete control. So they are looking to preserve how the Senate works and force them to work in a bipartisan way. But Senator Manchin completely agrees that we need to reform our voting rights in this country, and he's working on it, and he's working on a bill, and he's hoping that he can get 9 more Republicans. But these things aren't easy, and they take time.
Nina, what do you make of that sort of preservation? Yes.
Preservation, my behind, Brianna. Look, we need to preserve democracy now. So I got to disagree with my colleague here. They better not utter not one quote from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., not one, or any of his colleagues and contemporaries as we come up on his birthday on Saturday and the national celebration on Monday. These people are cowards. They are soulless cowards to hold up a daggone rule. Filibuster is a rule. It's not written in the Constitution. It's not a right. It is a rule, and they're standing in the way of it. So this is nonsense. They worried about what the Republicans going to do. Let's take care of 2022. Let's do what Democrats can do right now. They have the power. And my message to President Biden, now he done wasted a whole bunch of time with these folks, being diplomatic, inviting them out to the White House and to time out for it. He needs to hold a press conference. Let them know either you're going to be by my side saying you're going to be with me and getting rid of the filibuster, or I'm gassing up the jet on your behind, and I will be in Arizona and West Virginia directly and let the American people know who's standing in the way of my entire agenda, not just voting rights. So President Biden, gas up the jet and cancel student debt.
Amen to that. Amen to that. The filibuster is absurd. It's absurd. First of all, the Senate, by its very nature, is undemocratic, because you give a disproportionate amount of power to more rural, right-wing areas. So Wyoming has 2 senators. They have a population of about 12 people. And California has 2 senators, and they have roughly 17 quadrillion people. Okay, so you could argue, hey, that's the way the system works and all that stuff. I mean, in an ideal system, we'd abolish the Senate, and you just have a more representative body, which is the House of Representatives, and that would be that. But okay, so we have the Senate. Well, then you have this idea that 51 votes doesn't beat 49 votes. What? And they say, well, you need 60 in order to get anything through what's called regular order. Well, why? Well, that's the way that the filibuster works. Yeah, but hold on. The way the filibuster used to work was that if you wanted to block something, you needed to go and give a speech and start talking and never stop, so that you basically block any movement simply through a speech that never ends. That was a filibuster. That's a filibuster. Oh, we care so much about blocking this that we will start speaking and not stop so that we can block this. And you could take turns and have, however many, a dozen politicians go up there and take turns and speak for 7 hours at a time, and that would be a filibuster. At some point along the way, they reformed it to say, no, you could just declare we are filibustering, and then the other side needs 60 votes to pass it, whatever it is. Well, that just doesn't make any sense. You're saying that, you need this super majority to pass anything. Well, guess what? It turns out there's always been exceptions to the filibuster. There's something like over 100 different, I'm forgetting the exact number, so don't quote me on this, but like 141 or 144 different exceptions to the filibuster where, oh, you only need a simple majority to get this through or that through. And then there's also a whole other process, budget reconciliation, where certain things you only need 51 votes to get through. So there's all these different categories of loopholes around it because the rule's absurd. Now, this idea that people are pearl clutching and saying, oh my God, this is, how dare we change this institution and this is part of the Constitution. It's not. It's not. And Mitch McConnell now, who's arguing, well, don't you dare, because then we'll retaliate. They got rid of the filibuster for Supreme Court nominations, and it was a simple majority to get somebody on the Supreme Court now. They went nuclear on the filibuster on that particular issue. So now you have the Democrats, you have Joe Biden, so weak and ineffectual and pathetic. He was trying to get Manchin and Sinema to change their mind, but he gave a speech that wasn't pointed or targeted at anybody. And then Sinema goes and gives a speech and says, I'm not in favor of changing the filibuster. And Manchin's like, I'm not in favor of changing or reforming it at all. So because Joe Biden doesn't know how to fight and doesn't know how to exert political power, doesn't know how to twist arms, doesn't know how to play the carrot or stick game, doesn't know how to act like a mafia boss to get his way, we're stuck and we're going nowhere. The only stuff Biden can do right now is executive orders. And he doesn't even do that. He doesn't even want to do that. And there's plenty of things he can do through executive order that are perfectly constitutional, and he's not even doing that. So he's not doing executive orders, which is the easiest thing he could do. He's not fighting against Manchin and Sinema in a way that even has a small chance of working. And so here we are. And then you get this bullshit line from a Manchin staffer. Oh, we definitely need voting rights, but we need to get voting rights without reforming the filibuster because it's an important part of our institutions. It's certainly not. It's a stupid rule. At the very least, we should go back to the original filibuster. But if you wanted a more democratic body, you would just abolish the filibuster. But they are standing in the way of progress, and you can't help but think about that rotating villain theory. This notion that if it wasn't Manchin and Sinema, it'd be Warner and somebody else. And that they just rotate who's to blame, who's the bad guy, who plays the heel, and then nothing changes. Funny, whenever the Republicans want something, they get it done. Remember what happened? They did George W. Bush's tax cuts for the wealthy through reconciliation. Now, you had the Senate parliamentarian at the time say, you can't do that through budget reconciliation. So what did the Republicans do? Fired that parliamentarian and brought in somebody who said, okay, you can do it. When the Democrats get told by the parliamentarian you can't do that or that, they go, okay, I'm sorry. Can I please have my stapler back? So when they want something done, they get it done. They get it done. When we want voting rights and you can't even get that through, voting rights. Voting rights. I mean, that's the saddest thing I've ever heard in my life. These things are no-brainers. Okay, hold on. Let me tell you what is in the bill that apparently the Democrats are totally incapable of getting through or even fighting to get through or twisting arms or anything. So it makes Election Day a holiday. It's the Freedom to Vote Act. Makes Election Day a holiday. Ends gerrymandering. Combats anti-voting laws working their way through state legislatures where all these red states are trying to make it harder for poor people and people of color to vote. Requires states to allow 15 days of early voting. Massively expands voter access through automatic voter registration and election day registration. Again, these are no-brainers. Increases election security by creating a national standard for voter-verified paper ballots. Implements a national voter ID standard with reasonable alternatives like utility bills or bank statements. Requires voting machines be made in the United States. Protects nonpartisan election officials from partisan interference. Shines a light on dark money. Makes it harder for billionaires and special interests to buy elections. So more transparency. That's not anywhere near strong enough. But look, a lot of the things in this legislation are great. None of it's going to get through. And Biden's laying down in a chalk outline of himself, and we're all getting gaslit by Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, and Nina Turner was running circles around this guy. They don't have a real argument. They don't. These are fundamentally conservative and reactionary forces who are against even these basic changes in the right direction. That's who Joe Manchin is. That's who his staffer is. That's who Kyrsten Sinema is. And again, you can't even... not only can they not reform the filibuster back to the original filibuster or abolish it, they also apparently are incapable of just coming up with an expansion of the reconciliation process. You only get like 2 or 3 cracks at it under the current system. You could just say, no, we're getting rid of that. Now you get 10 cracks at it. That's what, they could pass a law that says that and it'd be fine. They're not even doing that. They're not even doing that. It's incredible. Joe Biden is going down as one of the least effectual presidents in modern American history, and that's kind, just saying modern American history, maybe in history. This is a failure. It's a failure on top of a failure within a failure, and Nina Turner speaking truth to power on CNN, and yet again, I'm surprised they still allow her on, because usually they're hostile to people who are telling the truth in an aggressive way. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.